So now we have already stated that Tamil Nadu has a very good network of higher education, and now the challenge is to to make the qualitative improvement, because as we are discussing also, whenever we talk of higher education, the general perception is that everybody wants to rush to, in other parts of the country, they want to rush to, say, Delhi or Mumbai. So we need to put Tamil Nadu into that focus. So I'll start with Dr. Karthikeyan. How do we improve? I have seen the state government continuously, they are taking several initiatives, but there are still some reports that we should talk about lack of research and other issues with the Tamil Nadu higher education. So what are the recent initiatives that the state government has been taking to improve the quality of education in the state? Because you have ensured the enrollment part, inclusive it is, but qualitative improvement, how could you do that?
Yeah, thanks to India Today for inviting me for this discussion. We do understand that there is in terms of GER, we are #1 in the major states in the country. We do understand that there is a definite need to improve the quality. Towards that, what the present government has announced is that we are going to revamp the entire syllabus. We are working very closely with industry partners. There's a lot of new technologies that have emerged. I need not narrate it to this group. You all know that. So what is important is to incorporate that into our curriculum. So we are in extensive discussion with the industry and all the stakeholders. Not only the technical education's curriculum needs improvement, but also the arts and science colleges curriculum needs improvement. The polytechnic curriculum needs improvement, because though we have several education institutions, the industry always scripts that they are not getting enough skilled manpower from the state. So to bridge that gap, extensive discussion is happening now. And for this year, that is 22-23, the new syllabus will be rolled out. That is one thing. Another aspect is we are also going to encourage students to take a lot of add-on courses. So that will produce much more quality output.
As you said, you will roll out new syllabus. Now, when you said new, the new education policy is also coming out. It has been already rolled out. And in a previous discussion, one speaker was mentioning that we need to focus more on vocational education. In higher education also, the general tendency is to produce engineers. So we need to move towards, I'll bring this question to you also, ma'am. But before that, on the government side, are you focusing, how are you saying that this new syllabus would be different from the existing one? How would it add to the quality of the education?
I'm not saying that it will be entirely different from the existing one. See,
and is it also in sync with the new education policy?
No. The state's policy or the stand on new education policies, we are totally opposed to the NEP, because it has a lot of negative things. If you want to have a discussion on that, I'm prepared for it. But what I mentioned as a new syllabus is that a revamped syllabus to suit industry's requirements. That is lacking. For example, we don't teach much on data mining. We don't teach much on artificial intelligence, machine learning. All that are getting incorporated. On the other side, if you see my arts and science colleges, a lot of IT companies come to my arts and science colleges to recruit graduates from English graduates, because they also need content writers. So there, the syllabus, though we teach a lot of literature, to suit the industry's need, these children need to know a lot of technical terms. They have to improve on their speaking skills and their drafting skills. That we are going to import. That's what I meant by revised syllabus.
Ma'am, this current situation, when we are talking a lot about this war between Russia and Ukraine, and a lot of large number of Indian students are caught in this crossfire, and then this debate has come to this nation that why we are sending students outside, why we can't provide education to them here in India. And to fill that gap, of course, the government cannot fill that gap. Government already has extended a large network, but central and state governments. But Here comes the role of the private education sector. And not only in medical education, Ukraine, the issue has come up about medical education, but in other aspects also, from technical education to vocational education. How private universities can fill that gap? And why I'm asking you that question, that counter question is that private universities or institutes exist in India, but they are not affordable.
Okay. Ellorkum vanakkam. So it is a beautiful question to be asked, but when it comes to a deemed university, might be I can answer in that sector because sir is answering in the face of a government. The answer to that question was answered just the session before. I could see a startup, last question which was sent, that they asked what is the recommendation you have for the Chief Minister on behalf of the startups. I was just talking to Raj Jagappa sir. I said, the next question to improve quality education in our state, because already the topic of this entire conclave is Tamil Nadu first. So Tamil Nadu first means we are already on the first. Being there first, your comparatively to improve the quality education is, where are you comparing? Comparing the south institutions or to the north institutions, or India as a whole to world? So that's why, because everybody knows education is a right and affordable, but you say when children, when they see, they select colleges, what is affordable, only definitely they get into the institutions. But the flexibility of education, the innovation, startups, students like starting their startups in first years or in school level is happening worldwide. But when it comes to our country, I think might be in this pandemic, we came to know about online education. But online education was something which was already available throughout the world, even from the school level. So there is a gap between India and abroad. So when it comes to affordability, parents feel that when my child has a freedom to expand his horizons, horizontal or vertical, when he wants to become a certain kind, might be in India, there is only two questions, engineer or doctor. That's the only question here. But when you go abroad, it's not like that. But still in our Indian system, it's still mark-based. But when you go abroad, that mark-based is not there. Might be children of today, the generations of today like to go there. If it comes to doctors, you can study there for 4 years, come back, write an examination and immediately start practicing. But here in India, there is, you study for a year, then you have to work for an intern for 1 more year, and then you become a doctor. Same as an engineer. He comes, he works for that, and still the mentality, or for a rural student is he wants to get placed. So institutions like us, our intention is first, the student should be placed. But there in abroad, it's not like that. But when it comes to deemed universities like that, our syllabus is flexible. Students are sent abroad. Within a semester, they can pursue what they can study abroad and come back and continue the education. Like that, if certain restrictions in affiliated institutions or in government institution comes, I think we are in par in the world. As you said, in NIRF ranking or whatever gradations, all Tamil Nadu institutions are doing good. But we are not able to go to the higher education ranking or QS ranking. Only few of the Indian institutions, but when you see their criteria, we are really doing good. And we are there in research. I think we need a more academic independence to all the institutions, and not as north and south, but Tamil Nadu, I think we are here on the top, because as you're already telling, the number of institutions are high. I think we should, the academic flexibility in the country in all institutions should be the same. That is my real, importance, or I can say an idea to quality education will be flexible throughout the country.
Dr. Viswanathan, Dr. Johnson talked about academic flexibility and independence. And academic flexibility is also required for innovation, research, and independent thinking also in universities. Now, Tamil Nadu, when it comes to Tamil Nadu, though it has done wonderfully well in terms of inclusive higher education, but there was a CAG report which talked about even in Madras University, several departments didn't do enough research. And overall also, this is the allegation that the research work is not happening. So my question is, how this government can provide you academic independence? Means you have asked for it. Do you have any structure for it? And how private education institutes can improve in the context of Tamil Nadu, because Tamil Nadu has a large number of private educational institutes, as we have got from the number, in these two aspects, gaining academic independence and flexibility, and how that can help in improve research and independent thinking.
Good afternoon, everyone. Being in the education sector, I know this is the worst timing possible to address the gathering just before lunch. I don't know how much I can compete with the lamb biryani, but I will try to do so. It is great being back on an India Today stage after a very long time. I thank the management of India Today for inviting me here with this illustrious and very friendly panel. Yes, sir. So coming to the question of Tamil Nadu and education, I think they go hand in hand, a very rich legacy, as you've mentioned. Just wanted to make a statistical point here. In the latest NIRF ranking, in the overall institution ranking, 20% of the institutions are from Tamil Nadu. We have to take a lot of pride in it. I'm making this point because I think in the local media coverage, there's not enough importance given to the good work that we are doing. Usually if you see news items related to higher education, it's usually about vacant seats or how the placements are happening, how the placement season is proceeding. That's how, about VC appointment. These are the only topics being discussed. But when compared to the national level, how well we are doing is not usually highlighted. And it's not just the number of institutions. 19 institutions are in the top 100, of which 8 are public, 11 are private. And they come from 11 districts. This is something you cannot find in any other state. You take Karnataka, it will all be in Bangalore. If you take Maharashtra, it will all be concentrated in Bombay, Pune region. If you take UP, it will be near the NCR. So we have a very inclusive growth. When you say 50%, the latest NEP recommends achieving 50% GER by 2035. So we are about 15 years ahead, and as people of Tamil Nadu, we should definitely take pride, and media should throw a lot of attention. So that's why I'm highlighting this point. Going to your question of academic freedom and how we can promote research and the innovation ecosystem through higher education. Given that I come from a university, the academic flexibility part is addressed then and there. We are a deemed university, so we have the autonomy to do what we want with our curriculum, structure, the basic outlines, but we pretty much have a very liberal hand. But that cannot be said with a lot of affiliating colleges. It is, again, in the NEP, the plan of NEP is that slowly the affiliating culture is destabilized and we have a more autonomous and university-based setup. I'm not sure how that is going to proceed. And as far as research goes, research is something that only as a nation we can promote. If you see any kind of well-developed countries, so you take US and Japan, for example, all very big knowledge economies, and their knowledge economy functions with research as a base. So the government heavily invests in research, and the research is a job market by itself, which we don't usually consider here. By research, we always mean somebody is going and giving up their life. That's the kind of image that one immediately gets when you say about a scientist or a researcher. That's not the case. Everywhere, in every country that is successful in research, they've made it into a very good business model. They pump a lot of money. I think since the late 60s or 70s, there has been recommendation that there should be 6% GDP spending on education and research. We're still in the 3% bracket. I think with the latest budget, it's about 40,000 crores. So only when that increases can we be able to promote research, because internally, whatever institutions, standalone institutions try, we will not be able to do it without a collective effort and a strong policy that makes this a priority, that making an innovative ecosystem is the priority, and that we will do through education. Unless that is there, I don't think there is anything that standalone institutions can do to achieve better research output.
Innovative ecosystem you mentioned. So, Mr. Karthikeyan, how do you think that the government can provide that innovative ecosystem? Because your mission statement, higher education mission statement, says a very interesting thing that it wants to produce high quality professional, making the state a global hub of university education, which probably you have been, whether global or not, but it's a hub of university education. But how do you provide that ecosystem that both these chancellors and assistant vice chancellor of VIT, they're asking for?
See, I don't know whether you noticed it. The Honorable Chief Minister, on his birthday, March 1st, has launched a very path-breaking and a wonderful scheme called Non-Mudalvan. It is a granular scheme. We are all part of it. The higher education department, school education department, the labor department, which manages the skill development in our state, and MSME department and industries department. These 5 departments are going to join together and roll out the details of this scheme. The Chief Minister was so passionate when he launched the scheme and then gave a speech which was telecast to around 6,000 school children and a lot of higher education institutions. The crux of the scheme is to guide the children in the school level about various opportunities. As she said, many people think only about medicine and engineering. Those are not the only courses that could take you to higher status. For example, I didn't get an engineering admission, but I ended up in the university doing research, then I ended up in the civil services. So there are a lot of opportunities that we are going to guide them in a structured manner. You might ask me whether it's not happening now. It's happening, but not in a very structured fashion. Though we give counseling to the children, we don't monitor them after they leave the school. They are all going to be tagged and they are going to be monitored, where they end up, what they study. Then, once they come to higher education institutions, not only the normal courses that will be taught there, there will be a lot of add-on courses. There will be target-oriented. Each student might need different skills or possess different abilities. Identifying that, nurturing them, and then enabling them to learn more on their field, besides the academic curriculum. And then, if some of them have startup capabilities, I was just witnessing the previous panel discussion. So there is a Tamil Nadu State Innovation Mission. I don't know whether it was discussed in the panel, in the last panel. So that was also launched. So we are going to handhold them in whoever could turn out to be an entrepreneur will be identified, and then seed money will be given. And then if somebody shows more progress, even equity will be given. So all that is part and parcel of this granular scheme. So this is what we say inclusive education, and then turning them into either they can go and land up in better positions. Now most of them are getting underemployed, or some of them end up as unemployed. So that scenario we are intending to change. Those are the main components of the scheme.
Dr. Johnson, very quickly, do you agree with what he has said? Means, are you happy with the way state government is moving? If I have to ask you one thing that you think that state government needs to do very urgently in terms of improving the higher education in Tamil Nadu, what would that be?
No, actually, I would avoid what Sir is telling, but the only thing, whatever policy or thing, to implement it, the time is more. As we are talking about NEP, I think we are talking for more than a couple of years. It's still not implemented and not in place. By that time, every institution, 2-3 batches of students are leaving. If you see in NEP, there is an exit system. Student can exit whenever he is pursuing in higher education, and he gets a degree for it. But to get that NEP get into process, I think that time duration, as Sir said, they have initiated the process. The time duration taken for any scheme or any implementation should be done then and there, so that the students who are studying in the present can be benefited. By the time everything is implemented, most of the things, some of the students, as today we are talking about online education, some of the students would say, maybe we didn't have it in those times, sitting at home and seeing our professors, learning whatever we want, sitting in a comfortable place. But today offline is open, there is a fear why offline is opening, but always that is really good. But to any scheme, even it is national or state, the time duration taken for any scheme should be done then and there. That is my recommendation.
Dr. Viswanathan, your comments.
Actually,
Same question.
Yes. Actually, I was wanting to talk about it. Sir brought it up earlier, and in his presence, I'll be able to. This Non-Mudalvan scheme that Sir said is a wonderful scheme, given that it shows the progressive outlook that the state governments, all the governments that have had towards education. Because when people are addressing literacy rates, GER rates, or improving quality, this is a training program, I think, for over 10 lakh students, I guess, if I'm not wrong, Sir, that for skilling up in tandem with Industry 4.0. So these are jargons that probably a CBSE school student might know, reading, India Today, Times of India, reading these big papers they might know. But somebody who's learning in a regional language, how will he know all this? That these are also opportunities available, because things are changing quite fast. So to provide such knowledge and also to provide soft skill training. because that is now imperative everywhere. Even for the best of students, we have to give soft skill training, only then they crack and go into big MNCs. So to be providing this training, it's a very futuristic approach, and in the presence of Sir, I'd like to congratulate the government for doing it. And I also agree with ma'am, but that's bureaucracy, right? Bureaucracy and democracy, there is always a delay.
This one you will definitely see, the scheme getting rolled out very quickly, because we were actually taken aback when the CM spoke so passionately about it when he launched the scheme. So then we all said, no, this is not the normal scheme where you can send the file to law department, finance department, and get opinion and then roll it out after a couple of months. The process has already started. You will see all that very soon.
Now, you mentioned about national education, new education policy, and then NEET, this medical exam NEET. Now, I have seen Tamil Nadu, there are lots of protests against NEET, and there is apprehension about new education policy also, particularly in Tamil Nadu. And the NEET has come into focus because of, again, the Ukraine situation. Why is it that Tamil Nadu is opposed to NEET first? And second, in the context of this Ukraine situation, now that it has been highlighted, and second, also NEP, you have said that there are several flaws in the NEP. Language has been one issue, as Dr. Viswanathan has mentioned, and we are discussing also how students from Tamil Nadu, they find it difficult to study in other parts of the country, and NEET has created that situation. But students from other states can ask, we also don't speak Hindi or English, but they are okay with NEET. Only Tamil Nadu is opposing. So my first question is, why are you opposed to NEET? The government is opposed to NEET in the context of the current situation. How do you see this? And second is NEP apprehensions.
See, the state has been consistently opposing NEET for several reasons. I would only highlight the main reason. It only, those students, especially urban students, and relatively rich students could get into NEET because it requires intensive coaching. So whoever could afford intensive coaching, whoever could pay a hefty sum for continuous training, they get trained from class 8 onwards nowadays. And look how these training institutes have grown manifold in our country. It's all due to NEET. So only those students could get into it, and it is definitely not an inclusive growth. It is highly against rural students. So that's the main reason why the state government opposes NEET. And with regard to NEP, it has a lot of things which are fundamentally against the state's policy, which has been a consistent policy for several decades. We are a state which believes in two-language policy. So there, they start with three-language formula, which is totally not acceptable in Tamil Nadu. This, you may be knowing the...
That is optional. That's not mandatory.
That's okay. It begins with that for the school education department. If you ask about higher education department...
Yeah, higher education particularly.
No, it has a lot of lacunae. Even this entry-exit will only encourage dropouts. That's our opinion. And this academic bank of credit, it says that 70% of the credit you can do elsewhere. It will spoil the whole ecosystem in a university. People join a university, do a 3-year undergrad, or join a college, do a 3-year undergrad, go to a university.
But this exists in many developed countries. This is
okay.
Not new.
See, we cannot be, it is too premature to compare India with a lot of developed countries. I myself did a 1-year master's in the US, sponsored by Government of India. A decade ago, I didn't find any this kind of drastic changes. So India is still an evolving country. In terms of higher education, we still have to go step by step. You can't jump straight from one place to another place just because it exists in the West in European countries and in the US for several decades. There it evolved over centuries. Here it's all relatively very new to us. She also said, no, the online education system is very, very, very new to us. We are not able to keep the students' attention focused on the classes. So a lot of things are happening. So therefore, we as a policy are opposed totally to the new education policy.
Now we are running short of time, so please some quick responses. One is today Anand Mahindra also tweeted about improving our higher education institutes and increasing the numbers. Tamil Nadu has already increased. So in the context of Tamil Nadu, how do you plan to, in your institute also, how do you plan to enhance the quality and also increase so that you can take more number of students in an affordable way? Because that's the prime allegation against you, that private institutes are very expensive. This question is for both of you. And then, sir, how do you want to facilitate that? If once they give the answers, so I would come to you, how do you want to facilitate that? Increasing quality and affordability.
So increasing quality in the such that in Sathyabama as such, we have 15 research centers, excellence of education and paper publication. We are among the top 50 in the country and NIRF ranking. To make an improvement as such, I think the quality of teachers entering the institution, as you know, now they have made doctorate as mandatory for teachers to teach in any university. But the quality, as sir said, the skilled quality, when they're coming, if their education system from the 8th or the basic education, like as you were speaking about NEET now, NEET we are not opposing. We are seeing how children are suffering. Because of NEET implementation, only NEET coaching centers have increased. Children from 8th standard are running behind NEET. It's very pathetic to see our children, and teachers also have left the syllabus of 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and they're teaching only NEET portions inside the class. That is very pathetic for the government to see. That is why we are opposing to see our children in a lot of stress. Nothing like that. And if this has been done from the beginning, any quality education, if you want to bring in any schemes or if you want to bring in anything from the government, make it as soon as possible, or make it as a mandatory for an education institution. Only if you do this, you give an approval to start an institution. After everything, after a decade, after this thing, now you're telling that they should write a NEET, they should write these examinations. So for quality education, what do you want us to do? Give a student a job or only coach him for such examinations? You give us an answer, both the central or state, then we will work towards whatever the nation needs in whatever way you like.
Dr. Viswanathan.
So as far as quality is concerned, I can talk from the perspective of VIT. So we are aiming to crack the international top QS rankings, the Shanghai rankings. So that is the aim. And they have very clear benchmarks about how we improve quality through research output, through academic flexibility, the success of our students. So they're very defined parameters. Naturally, everything comes with the cost. I think that all of us would agree. Anything good is never for free. So affordability is an issue, but I think it's being given undue importance as well. If you see IIT Madras, the fees is about 2.25 lakhs. IIT KGP is about 3 lakhs. I think gone are the days where even government institutions, the fees was very less. So when compared to that, there are a lot of institutions offering for a lesser fee. So that you cannot compare apples and oranges all the time and say why apple is red and orange is orange. So that comparison cannot come at all.
They earn better pay packages also. They earn
Yeah,
better pay packages also.
Yeah, it is 7th pay.
Return
I don't
on
know if you've
investment
seen the
is higher.
last grade matrix, the DA revision and all. So everything comes with the cost. So it is not very right to say if it is being afforded. But just to put out a stat, 80% of institutions are private and they churn out the maximum number. About 60-70% of the students who graduate come from private institutions. If it was not affordable, I think they would not have gone there in first place. And I think giving scholarships, I think there are a lot of right steps. The first generation learner scholarships, I think now most states give. And there are a lot of reservation, OBC-based scholarships in the northern part of the country that I know of because I manage a campus there. So these are the measures how you can ease the financial burden. If you want to make it affordable for the student, I think one of the main constraints, I think, is not with the cost of us, like what is costing us, but what it is costing them. Loan processes have become a lot of pressure on the students, and asking for collateral for education loan is not the right way to go, and there needs to be some interest cut for education loans. I think these are the ways we should approach education finance rather than just saying cutting costs. Because cutting costs at the end of the day it is not going to get you quality. If somebody gets paid better for a postdoc job in Russia or Ukraine, they're going to leave there and leaving the job here. So you're basically facilitating brain drain that way. So I think there needs to be a more holistic approach towards education finance rather than just saying private sector costs high.
Okay. I had a counter question, but we are running out of time. So,
Yeah, to tell about affordability, our state government is one of the pioneering governments in terms of whoever is the first generation graduate, their entire tuition fees, whether they study, and first of all, the college, the universities and the colleges, government fees is very, very low. Engineering college, government engineering colleges, it's only 7,000 rupees fees. For arts and science
that's
colleges, it's
accepted.
free.
Sir, how the government is there any plan to regulate private education in a sense that it becomes affordable?
Yeah,
At the same time, government is also guilty of these high expenses because many a time private educational institute, when they have to set up an institute, there are a lot of hidden expenses which we may not talk in this platform, but because of that also the process of setting
a
up.
long
I don't
time
think
back.
there
Why
is any-
regulation and restrictions
So
again?
all
No,
these
I don't
things-
think they are complaining
So-
anything regarding
But the fee
hidden costs
structure-
and all. I'll tell you, see, we have a Private Universities Act here in Tamil Nadu. We have already 3 private universities, including Mr. Shivanada's university, up and running. The 3 universities are running already. 3 have already got permission. 2 have applied, for which I made an inspection last week. So we'll be having 8 private universities in the state. So it's all happening. A lot of applications are coming mainly because the state has a very good ecosystem for higher education. So we are making things very simple and then encouraging more and more private investment in higher education, despite we starting new colleges. This year, the state government is going to start 10 new arts and science colleges in places which are still backward. We did a micro-analysis of GER taluk-wise. Though the state's GER is very high, there are certain pockets in Tamil Nadu, in Dharmaburi district, and some parts of the coastal districts, which are very low in GER. So we are starting new colleges there. And through that, the GR is likely to increase to many more parameters.
I had many more questions. We have run out of time because we have to learn a lot of things from Tamil Nadu. But one thing I could see that both government and private sector, they share the same passion for higher education, and that's why both are working in sync. Thank you all for participating in this discussion. It was wonderful having you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.